Welcome to our deep dive into something I think a lot of people could probably really use right now.
Yeah.
And that's how to experience less suffering
Mm-hmm.
and more peace in your life.
Yeah.
But we don't just want to talk theory.
Right.
We're going to try to go for those practical, actionable insights that people can actually use.
Absolutely.
So our guide for this deep dive is Joseph Nguyen's book,
Okay.
Don't Believe Everything You Think.
I like it.
It's all about how much our thinking shapes our reality and how to, well, think less and feel more.
It's a fascinating premise because he's not saying life is easy or that bad things don't happen.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that pain is real, but says that it's our thoughts about the pain that cause the real suffering.
Right. It's like that saying, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Exactly.
And the book really brings this idea to life. Nguyen uses the example of two people sitting in the same coffee shop.
Okay.
One stressing about life,
Yeah.
the other's totally blissful.
Right. Same coffee, same shop, totally different internal worlds.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, how often do we, have a small setback
Oh, yeah.
that spirals into a whole day of feeling awful?
All the time.
That's totally the second arrow in action.
Oh, totally. Okay, so let's dig into this choice that we supposedly have.
Okay.
Nguyen dives into this Buddhist idea of the two arrows. So that first arrow is that painful event, like a job loss or an argument, stuff you can't always avoid.
Right.
But that second arrow is the reaction.
Yeah.
The anger, the replaying it in your head,
Yeah.
the why me spiral. That's where the real suffering kicks in.
And that second arrow is where we have the agency.
Okay.
Where we can step in and change our experience.
Okay.
And this resonates with Nguyen's own life, too.
Oh, really?
He spent years trying everything to overcome his own suffering.
Wow.
Therapy, meditation, all sorts of things. But it wasn't until he really understood the power of his own mind.
How it was creating his reality that he found lasting relief.
So is he saying that we live in a world of thought, not reality?
That's the core idea.
Like we're all just filtering everything through our own mental lens?
Think about it. Ask 100 people about something.
Okay.
Say the stock market. You'll get 100 different opinions.
Yeah.
Same market, but each person's thoughts, beliefs, and past experiences shape their view.
Totally.
It's a perfect example of how our thinking colors our reality.
Okay. That makes sense?
Yeah.
But I can also see how that can make someone feel a little powerless.
Yeah.
Like we're trapped in our own heads. Does objective truth even exist?
It's not that objective truth doesn't exist.
Okay.
But rather our experience of it is always filtered through our individual thinking.
Got it.
Think about a simple example. You're home, relaxing.
Okay.
But just the thought of that upcoming work deadline stresses you out.
Oh, yeah.
The feeling of stress is real.
For sure.
But it's triggered by your thoughts about the deadline.
Not the deadline itself.
Okay. I'm starting to get how this works.
Yeah.
So our feelings are real.
Yes.
But they're a direct result of what's happening in our minds.
Exactly.
Almost like thoughts create feeling.
Exactly. And now here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
Nguyen makes a crucial distinction between thoughts and thinking.
All right. I'm intrigued.
Thoughts are those fleeting things that pop in and out of our minds all day.
Yeah.
It's like mental popcorn.
Okay.
Thinking is what we do with those thoughts.
Oh, okay.
Like dwelling on them, judging them, or letting them spin stories.
Okay, give me a real-world example here so I can really get this.
Imagine you have a big, exciting goal, like starting your own business. The initial thought with him, the raw material is pure potential. Right? It feels expansive.
Right.
But then the thinking mind kicks in with doubts, fears, comparisons to other people.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly what felt exciting starts to feel overwhelming.
Oh, been there.
It's like that thinking mind can totally sabotage that initial spark of inspiration.
Yeah.
It sucks the joy right out of it.
You got it. And that's what Nguyen argues.
Okay.
Thinking can block those natural positive feelings like joy, peace, and love.
Okay.
True joy, he says, comes from simply being, not from overthinking everything.
Okay, so if thinking is the problem,
Yeah.
does that mean the solution is to just stop thinking?
He acknowledges that completely stopping thoughts is impossible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We're not aiming for a blank mind.
Okay.
The real goal is to become aware of our thinking patterns.
Right.
Especially those negative ones.
Yeah.
And just spend less time trapped in them.
Okay, because some of those thought patterns are so deeply ingrained. How do we even begin to untangle ourselves from them?
He uses a few great analogies in the book to illustrate this.
Okay.
Think about a glass of murky water.
Okay.
If you keep stirring it,
Yeah.
it stays cloudy.
Right.
But if you just leave it alone, the dirt settles and the water becomes clear on its own.
Yeah.
Our minds are kind of like that.
I like that.
When we stop stirring up our thoughts, they naturally settle.
Okay.
And we experience more clarity.
So instead of fighting our thoughts, we just kind of let them be. And they'll eventually calm down on their own.
Right. And it's not a one-time fix.
Okay.
He compares it to quicksand.
Oh, God.
The more you struggle, the deeper you sink.
Right.
Instead, you have to relax,
Okay.
spread out, and slowly work your way free.
Gotcha.
It's about gently guiding ourselves back to that calmer state whenever we notice the mental chatter getting loud.
This is making me think about goals and ambitions.
Okay.
If we stop overthinking,
Yeah.
do we have to give up on actually achieving things in life?
That's a common concern.
Right.
And Nguyen addresses it head on.
Okay, good.
He argues that we're most productive when we're not overthinking, when
Okay.
we're in that flow state,
Right.
like an athlete in the zone.
I get you.
But there's a catch. It's about the kind of goals we're pursuing.
All right, I'm curious. What's the difference?
He distinguishes between goals fueled by inspiration
Right.
and those driven by desperation. Okay, I'm listening.
Desperate goals come from a place of lack,
Okay.
urgency, fear. They feel heavy,
Yeah.
like a means to an end.
Okay.
It's like saying, I need to make X amount of money to feel secure,
Yeah.
or I have to escape this job.
Oh, yeah.
They're often tied to external validation or trying to fill a void.
Right. I think we've all chased those kinds of goals at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah.
That feeling of chasing something
Right.
because I feel like I should, not because I truly want it.
Right. And those goals often feel draining and stressful.
Totally. Okay, so how about the other type of goals?
Inspired goals, on the other hand,
Yeah.
feel expansive,
Yeah.
joyful,
Yeah.
almost like an end in themselves.
They come from a place of abundance, not lack.
Gotcha.
They're aligned with our genuine passions and talents.
So how do we know if our goals are inspired or driven by desperation?
Pay attention to how they feel.
Okay.
Desperate goals often come with a lot of anxiety and pressure. Inspired goals feel lighter, more energizing,
Yeah.
even exciting.
Okay.
It's like you're being pulled forward by something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
not pushed by fear.
This is making me rethink some of my own goals.
Oh, good.
It's powerful to realize
Yeah.
how much our thinking can impact our motivation and drive.
Exactly. And this all connects back to Nguyen's idea
Okay.
of unconditional creation.
What's that?
Doing things simply for the joy of it,
Okay.
not for external validation or rewards.
Right.
It's about tapping into that state of flow
Yeah.
and allowing inspiration to guide us.
That sounds amazing in theory,
Right.
but how do we actually live that way?
That's a great question.
What are the practical steps?
Yeah.
That's what we'll be exploring in the next part of our deep dive.
I'm ready.
Stick around. Welcome back. Before we jumped into this next section, we were talking about those desperate versus inspired goals.
Right.
But now we want to ask the big question. How do we actually live this idea
Yeah.
of non-thinking and unconditional creation in our everyday lives?
That's where the rubber meets the road, right? It's one thing to understand these concepts,
Yeah.
but another to actually put them into practice.
Right.
Luckily, Nguyen gives us some really concrete
Okay.
tools and strategies in the book.
All right, let's get practical.
Okay.
So if we want to tap into that flow state more often,
Yeah.
where do we even begin?
Nguyen suggests starting with your environment.
Go.
Think about it. You wouldn't try to meditate in the middle of a rock concert, would you?
Probably not.
Creating an environment that supports non-thinking is key.
Okay, so what does a non-thinking environment even look like?
It can be different for everyone,
Okay.
but the basic principle is the same. Minimize distractions
Okay.
and create a sense of calm.
So like what? Declutter your workspace.
Yeah, declutter your workspace.
Set boundaries around technology.
Set boundaries around technology.
Maybe incorporate some elements of nature
Exactly.
in your surroundings.
It's all about creating a space where your mind can actually settle
Right.
and find some quiet.
Okay, so if our physical space can be a trigger for thinking,
Mm-hmm.
what about our internal space?
Right.
How can we shift our mindset
Yeah.
to be more conducive to non-thinking?
Nguyen talks about creating what he calls an activation ritual.
Okay.
It's not some complicated ceremony, but rather a mindful morning routine designed to set the tone for your entire day.
So instead of starting the day by checking email and stressing about your to-do list,
Exactly.
you're doing things that help you connect with that inner stillness.
Imagine starting your day with meditation, yoga, journaling, spending time in nature. Anything that helps you ground yourself and tap into that peaceful state before the chaos of the day begins.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because how you start your day really does set the stage for everything that follows.
It really does.
But let's be honest.
Right.
Even with a great morning routine, things can go sideways throughout the day.
Yeah.
We're going to have moments where we get pulled back into that vortex of thinking.
He emphasizes that it's a practice, not perfection.
Okay.
The key is to notice when those thought patterns start to creep in without judgment and gently guide yourself back to that calmer state. It's like building a muscle. The more you practice, the easier it becomes.
And speaking of ingrained patterns, he also talks about destructive habits and how they tie into our thinking. It's like sometimes our thoughts lead us to behaviors we don't even want to be engaging in.
He dives deep into how to overcome those negative patterns. It all starts with awareness. Ask yourself, what's the thought pattern driving this behavior? What are the underlying beliefs that are keeping me stuck?
So once we've identified those thought patterns, how do we challenge them? Is it as simple as just telling ourselves they're not true?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. He encourages us to not just deny those thoughts, but to actually question the underlying beliefs. Are they really true? Are they serving us? Often we discover that we're holding on to beliefs that are outdated or simply not true anymore.
That reminds me of the idea of cognitive reframing.
That's a great connection.
It's about actively choosing to look at things from a different perspective.
And as we start to question those limiting beliefs, we naturally open ourselves up to new possibilities, to new ways of thinking and being.
I like that.
And this is where the idea of intuition comes in. Nguyen talks a lot about the importance of trusting that inner voice, that gut feeling that often guides us in the right direction.
This is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't just talk about quieting the mind, but also about listening to that wisdom that emerges when we do.
Exactly.
It's like there's a deeper intelligence at play.
He calls it infinite intelligence, that source of wisdom and creativity that's always available to us when we create space for it.
I like it.
It's like that aha moment that comes out of nowhere. Or that gut feeling that leads you to make a decision that turns out to be exactly right.
Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Oh, all the time.
Definitely. I think we all have those moments where we just know something, even if we can't explain it logically.
It's powerful.
But what I'm curious about is, what does this have to do with miracles? Nguyen talks about miracles happening when we're in a state of non-thinking, right? That's a pretty bold claim.
He doesn't mean miracles in the biblical sense, but rather those moments of synchronicity, those unexpected events that just seem to fall into place effortlessly.
Give me an example.
It's like when the right person shows up at the right time. Or when an opportunity appears out of the blue that perfectly aligns with your goals.
So is he saying that when we get out of our own way, when we stop overthinking, the universe can step in and work its magic?
That's the idea.
I like it.
And it's not about sitting back and passively waiting for things to happen. It's more about creating the mental and emotional space for those opportunities to emerge. It's about trusting that there's a bigger plan unfolding.
I dig it.
Even if we can't see it yet.
This makes me think about the law of attraction. The idea that our thoughts and beliefs create our reality.
It's a similar concept, but Nguyen takes it a step further.
All right.
It's not just about manifesting specific things, but rather about creating an overall state of being that is open to receiving whatever the universe has in store for us.
This is all so inspiring.
Oh, I know. It's good stuff.
But I have to admit, it also feels a little daunting. Like, how do we actually know when we're truly following our intuition? And not just chasing some random whim?
That's such an important question. I'm glad you brought it up.
He
acknowledges that it can be tricky to discern between true intuition and just the ego's desires.
Totally.
But he offers some helpful guidelines.
What are they?
He suggests paying attention to how it feels.
Okay.
Intuition often feels calm, clear, and aligned with your deepest values.
Oh.
It's not about forcing or striving. It's more like a gentle nudge in the right direction.
So it's about tuning in to that quiet inner voice rather than the loud, demanding voice of the ego.
And he also talks about the importance of creating space for these miracles to occur.
Right.
Imagine a teacup that's already full.
Okay.
You can't pour anything more into it.
Yeah.
Our minds are the same way.
Right.
If they're already crammed with thoughts, worries, and to-do lists.
Oh, for sure.
There's no room for new insights,
right,
inspiration, or those miracles to show up.
So we need to consciously make an effort to clear out some of that mental clutter.
Right.
How do we even begin to do that?
He offers a lot of great advice on that.
Okay.
First, it's about cultivating the practice of being present.
Okay.
Allow your mind to settle. Make time for silence and stillness, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
That makes sense.
It's creating a mental sanctuary where we can recharge and reconnect with ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And creating space isn't just about physical decluttering.
Right.
It's also about letting go of limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Negative thought patterns and anything else that's keeping us stuck.
He even shares specific frameworks for creating a non-thinking environment and removing thinking triggers from your life.
Okay.
We can share those with you in the show notes.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Those frameworks sound incredibly helpful. You know, as we're talking about all of this, it strikes me that Nguyen isn't really presenting anything radically new.
Right.
These are ancient wisdom teachings.
Yeah.
But they're packaged in a very modern, accessible way.
It's true. It's like he's reminding us of truths that we already know deep down, but we've forgotten amidst the busyness and noise of modern life.
Yeah.
He's giving us permission to slow down, to listen to our inner wisdom, to trust that the universe has our back.
And that's such a powerful message, especially in these times.
It is.
It's a reminder that we don't have to figure everything out.
Right.
That we can let go of the struggle and that we can find peace and joy right here, right now, no matter what's happening around us.
Beautifully said.
And that brings us to another important point.
What's that?
Even though this path to peace might be simple, it's not always easy.
That's true.
There will be challenges along the way.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the potential obstacles that might come up as we embrace this way of being? And how can we navigate them with grace and resilience?
That's what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Stay with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Joseph Nguyen's Don't Believe Everything You Think. We've been exploring some pretty powerful ideas about finding peace through non-thinking. But now I want to talk about the elephant in the room. What happens when it gets hard?
Right.
Because let's be real, it's not all sunshine and miracles, is it?
You're absolutely right. It's important to acknowledge that embracing this way of being isn't always easy.
Okay.
In fact, Nguyen dedicates a whole chapter to the potential challenges we might face.
Okay, lay it on me. What are some of the obstacles?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles is simply the feeling of unfamiliarity.
Okay.
We're so used to living in our heads to that constant mental chatter that silence and stillness can actually feel really uncomfortable at first.
It's like our brains are going, wait, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Why am I not worrying about something right now?
Exactly.
We've been conditioned to believe that busyness equals productivity and worthiness.
And this is where faith comes in.
Okay.
It's about trusting that it's okay to just be peaceful, present, and not constantly striving or fixing something.
This can be a radical shift for a lot of people.
It really can.
And I imagine our ego puts up a fight too.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Like, come on.
The ego wants to stay in control.
Yeah.
So it might try to convince you that you're being lazy, unproductive, or losing your edge.
Right.
If you're not constantly thinking and doing. It can whisper things like, if you slow down, you'll fall behind.
Totally.
Or you need to be constantly hustling to be successful.
So it's like our own minds become the obstacle.
It is ironic. It's also very human. We're all wired for survival. And for a long time, overthinking and hypervigilance were essential for our safety.
Right.
But in today's world, that same wiring can keep us trapped. In a cycle of stress and anxiety.
Okay, but the good news is...
The good news is that once we become aware of these patterns, We can start to detach from them.
Okay.
We can see the ego's fears for what they are, just thoughts, not truths.
That's a powerful reframe.
Yeah.
But even when we understand that,
Yeah.
fear can still be a powerful force.
Absolutely.
Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear what might happen if we actually let go of control.
Nguyen is very compassionate about this.
Okay.
He acknowledges that fear is a natural human response, especially when we're stepping outside our comfort zones.
Yeah.
He writes about his own experiences with fear.
Oh, wow.
And how he learned to navigate it.
It's reassuring to know
Yeah.
that even someone who teaches these principles
Right.
still grapples with these very human emotions.
We're all human.
So how do we deal with that fear?
Yeah.
Do we just try to ignore it?
He suggests acknowledging the fear.
Okay.
Letting yourself feel it, but not letting it control you.
Okay.
Remember, it's often our thinking about the fear that makes it worse.
Oh, yeah.
What if, instead of getting caught in that mental spiral, we could simply observe the feeling of fear without judgment and choose to focus our attention on something else?
It's like that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway.
And this is where the practice of self-compassion becomes so important. You're going to stumble on this path. You're going to have moments where you get sucked back into old patterns of thinking and reacting.
It's going to happen.
Be gentle with yourself.
Okay.
Don't beat yourself up when you fall short.
So it's about progress, not perfection.
I love that.
It's a journey, not a destination.
You got it.
Okay.
It's about continuously reminding ourselves that peace is always available to us.
It's nice.
We can always choose to return to that state of non-thinking, no matter what's happening around us.
And I think it's important to clarify that finding peace isn't about becoming some emotionless robot, right?
That's such an important point.
Because it's easy to misunderstand this whole non-thinking thing as shutting down all of our feelings.
It's actually quite the opposite.
Okay.
When we quiet the mind, we create space for a wider range of emotions to arise.
Really?
We can experience joy, love, gratitude, and creativity more fully without the filter of our constant thinking.
So it's not about eliminating emotions. It's about experiencing them in a more authentic and balanced way.
Precisely.
Okay.
And even the challenging emotions like sadness, anger, or grief can be valuable teachers.
Right.
They can point us to areas where we need to grow, to heal, or to let go.
So even the tough stuff has a purpose.
Absolutely. It's all part of the human experience.
Okay.
And when we can approach all of it with curiosity and compassion, even the most challenging moments can become opportunities for growth and transformation.
I love that reframing.
Yeah.
It takes the pressure off of needing to be perfect.
Right.
And allows us to embrace that full spectrum of human emotions.
You know, as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I'm struck by how simple yet profound Nguyen's message is.
It really is.
It's not about complicated techniques or elaborate rituals.
Right.
It's about remembering who we truly are beyond the thoughts and stories we tell ourselves.
It's about recognizing that we're not our thoughts. We're not our circumstances. And we have access to this infinite source of peace and wisdom within us.
Beautifully said. And that's a message I think we all need to hear now more than ever.
I agree.
It's a reminder that we don't have to have it all figured out, that we can let go of the struggle, and that peace and joy are available to us right here, right now.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If you were craving more peace, more joy, more fulfillment in your life, I encourage you to explore some of the ideas we've discussed today.
Absolutely.
Start by creating some space in your day, even just a few minutes, for silence and stillness.
Just breathe.
Notice your thoughts without judgment.
Let them be.
Connect with your breath. And ask yourself, what would it feel like to live from a place of non-thinking?
Good question.
Of trust, of knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should.
And remember, be gentle with yourself, celebrate your progress, and trust that peace is always available to you right here, right now.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, may you find peace in the stillness.